What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from Anime Opera, and I'm back at it again. I heard you loud and clear on the Luffy's new bounty video, and so here I am with a similar video breakdown of Zoro's new bounty and how it got there. Channel Pirate King Within, and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece videos like this one on the channel. Be a smashing Pirate King and not a passing Orochi. If you haven't, joined the Nakama by subscribing and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future One Piece videos and updates. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. As with the Luffy video, first we'll break down Zoro's bounty journey. Zoro had less bounties than Luffy, and his first one appeared during chapter 213 after his defeat of Mr. One, aka the Killer Daw's Bones, Warlord Crocodile's strongest fighter. Now, since he's not the captain, we can never expect Zoro's bounty to surpass Luffy's, but he is from the beginning established as the first mate and second strongest fighter in the Straw Hat crew. Compared to Luffy's new 100 million bounty after Alabasta, Zoro's is 60 million. And even though Luffy will inevitably get the spotlight in the media's eyes and thus get a higher bounty and focus, 60 million is still really good. With this, Zoro doubled Luffy's old bounty of 30 million and shot way ahead of old main antagonists Luffy already beat, like Arlong, who had a 20 million bounty. Mr. One's Vivricard revealed his bounty to be 75 million, but I'm guessing this is a figure only established later on in the story because we only got it later, and since Crocodile's former bounty before he became a warlord was 81 million, not that much higher, and his new post-warlord bounty has yet to be revealed. Also, we can assume that Zoro would have shot well past that mark if he defeated Mr. One while he had a 75 million bounty. At this point, Zoro had a bounty that was 60% of Luffy's own. Now let's discuss the Post-Enies Lobby attack bounties. After defeating Rob Lucci, the strongest member in CP9 history, and declaring war on the world government, Luffy's bounty jumped up to 300 million. Zoro's new one was 40% of Luffy's new bounty, or 120 million. Again, higher than his captain's old one of 100 million. Zoro beat Kaku, which is definitely not as glamorous as beating Rob Lucci, but Kaku was good enough to get promoted to CP0 along with Rob Lucci later on in the story. And besides the victory itself, Zoro, since he's the first mate, it would make sense that he would have a rising bounty to match the increased perceived threat level of the Straw Hat crew, which are now not just taking down corrupt pirates, but blatantly warring with the world government. Zoro was at the Paramount War, and while Luffy's bounty jumped from 300 million to 400 million at some point without him even noticing, we didn't get a new bounty for Zoro. It's only after Dressrosa and Doflamingo's defeat that Zoro gets a new bounty of 320 million. At this point, Luffy's bounty is 500 million. So Zoro's bounty is now over 60% of Luffy's bounty, which is very cool, and if Luffy didn't get that boost by doing stuff on his own from 300 million to 400 million, then the pattern of Zoro's new bounty being larger than Luffy's last would have continued, but alas, it didn't technically this time because of Luffy's solo adventures. Before he got this bounty, Zoro beat Pika, one of the 3 top officers of the Don Quixote pirates. Zoro could cut him easily even though he was skilled enough to coat his whole body in armament hockey. Notably, Pika's bounty was 99 million before it was frozen over 10 years ago, so pretty safe to say it's not up to date. Us Zoro stans at this point in the story, we're still waiting to see him get a real challenge post time skip and post Mihawk training. And then, when Luffy's bounty shot up to 1.5 billion after he was seen as the ringleader in an attempt to assassinate Big Mom, and after he beat Katakuri, Zoro fans got some bad news. Of course, we couldn't expect much since Zoro didn't go to Whole Cake Island with Luffy, but what people might not have expected was that Sanji's new bounty would surpass Zoro's. Zoro's bounty stayed the same, while Vinsmoke Sanji's bounty went up to 330 million. Furthermore, former warlord Jinbei joined the crew and has a bounty of 438 million. So our Zoro, who used to be viewed by the world as the first mate and the second strongest Straw Hat, now actually has the 4th highest bounty. This is a great example of how bounties are not just reflections of how strong someone is, but it still felt kind of bad that the first mate didn't even go up in bounty when the captain of the crew shot up by 3 times. I think Oda did this on purpose though, to make Wano in many ways Zoro's arc, and his post-Wano bounty all the sweeter. We know Whole Cake was more of a Sanji arc, and so it makes sense Oda wanted to give him time to shine, and so it's not surprising that he temporarily gave him a higher bounty. However, as we'll see, Zoro is about to reclaim the 2nd highest bounty number in the crew. Zoro fought Kaido's strongest fighter, and his first mate, King, which is telling in and of itself. But we can't even start there because Zoro did epic things even before that. Now of course, I won't go into everything that happened in Wano, but I will go into what Zoro accomplished against 2 Yonko, namely Big Mom and Kaido. First, he saved Luffy from Big Mom's Prometheus attack by using his ability to cut fire, that he, to use his own words, stole from Kinemon. He deflected Kaido's sharp wind blades with his own sword like it was nothing. He prepared to attack Kaido with Enma using one sword style, an attack that got Kaido's attention, and even Big Mom lost her cool completely and screamed out, and I quote, "Look out Kaido, that's no ordinary sword," end quote. The attack was sharp enough to easily cut through a horn of the giant Onigashima skull, but we did not get to see what it would have done to Kaido because the attack doesn't connect. Recently, in fact, they animated this part and Crunchyroll published a clip called Zoro Makes Kaido Dodge that is approaching 2 million views already. Not only is it a huge deal that Yonko feel like they have to dodge your attack, it is after this that Big Mom says, and I quote, "We've underestimated them," end quote. How awesome is it that Zoro is the one that got her to say that? Answer, very, very awesome. Zoro goes on to save Luffy when his Gear 4 runs out temporarily. He attacks Kaido with Black Rope Dragon Twister and actually cuts his scale and makes him bleed. Both Killer and Big Mom remark with surprise that Zoro could actually cut Kaido's scales. Kaido goes on to say the attack hurts and that must be Oden's sword. Now it is up to interpretation where Zoro's strength ends and Enma's begins, but since Enma is currently a weapon being used by Zoro, it should all be included when assessing Zoro's threat level and bounty. Zoro keeps carrying Luffy around and saving him as the latter recovers. Eventually, the two Yonko do something you'd expect to see in fanfiction. They combine their powers to launch a Yonko combo attack. They launch Conquest of the Sea at the 5 Supernova, an attack that Killer says is unavoidable. And what happens? Our very own Zoro steps up to the plate, takes the full brunt of the combo attack so no one else has to. Even Kid, who does not make a habit of going around and praising people, has to say it's a real feat that Zoro blocked that. As if that wasn't enough, he gets up again, cuts Prometheus right from under Big Mom some more, and chases Prometheus so he can't help Big Mom, until Kaido has to interfere and help Prometheus so he can go and save Big Mom. Then Zoro says he's going to do something that is at the limit of his ability, at this point at least, because, as we will see, he will get stronger over the course of this arc. He uses the attack Dead Man's Game on Kaido, and Kaido is shocked, startled that Zoro can also use Conqueror's Haki. Kaido says he's done enough and that the wound he gave the so-called strongest creature in the world will remain with him, just like Oden's wounds did. And all of that was already epic, but what's crazy is that Zoro's main fight hasn't even started. After some miracle medicine that's actually a double-edged sword and will make him feel way more pain afterwards, Zoro gets temporarily healed enough to fight King, Kaido's right-hand man and the Yonko commander with the highest known bounty at 1.39 billion. I will remind you that even though Whitebeard had the highest bounty of the Yonko while he lived and was considered the strongest man and the closest to the One Piece, his right-hand man Marco, with his overpowered mythical zone fruit, has a lower bounty than King, at 1.374 billion. So King is a very big deal based on his bounty and the fact that he's the so-called strongest creature, strongest fighter. He's also from a godlike people that were supposed to be very powerful, but they also got wiped out, which raises some important questions that aren't in the scope of this video. But the point for this video is King is a monster in terms of strength, as even Queen pointed out. Despite all of King's power and trickiness, Zoro ends up defeating him. He figures out how to work better with Enma by not trying to control the amount of haki he's giving it, but to just let it take as much as it wants, even if that could potentially kill Zoro. Enma seems to take a bunch of Conqueror's Haki, causing people around to faint, and King to conclude that Zoro too intends to be a king. It's logical to assume that now Zoro would be able to launch a way more devastating attack than the one that even Yonko felt like they had to avoid. We were all hoping Zoro would cut down a dragon in this arc, and we do see Zoro go up against a kind of giant magma dragon launched by King. He uses King of Hell, 3-Sword Serpent, 103 Mercies, Dragon Damnation, yes, a long name, to slice through King's attack and deliver a finishing blow to him. He even takes off one of King's wings, making it feel like the King of Hell, Zoro, just took down a god, which is what the Lunarians were considered to be back in the day. Zoro pronounces himself as the King of Hell, and then has enough energy to launch a powerful attack that sends himself back to the floating island. That's when he presumably passes out and encounters death himself. Now, since we've met no literal gods in One Piece, only god fruit users, my guess is that this god of the underworld is actually Enma's awakening. That's right, I think Zoro has a devil fruit through Enma, and I explained that in detail in my Zoro already has a devil fruit video, link in the description. But it's not necessary to know that when considering his bounty, because his bounty will be based off of his feats here, unless his devil fruit is especially wanted by the world government like Luffy's, but that's just speculation at this point. So back to the question, what will be Zoro's new bounty? Following his usual pattern, it's safe to say that it will be over Luffy's current bounty of 1.5 billion, especially since he just beat a godly fighter with a bounty of 1.39 billion. Then there's also the fact that before any of that, he made the Yonko dodge. He blocked a Yonko combo attack and even gave Kaido, the so-called strongest creature in the world, a lasting wound like Odin himself. For these reasons, he shall surpass both Sanji's and Jinbei's new bounties and become the person with the second highest bounty in the crew once again. If you watched my Luffy bounty video, then you know exactly why I think he'll have the highest bounty in history after defeating Kaido. Understandably, his first mate, the King of Hell, will also have a really high one. Historically, when Luffy's and Zoro's bounties went up together, Zoro reached between 40% to about 60% of Luffy's new bounty. Conservatively, I think Luffy's new bounty will be at least 5.75 billion, for reasons explained in the Luffy's new bounty video. That would give Zoro a range from 2.3 billion to 3.45 billion if we use the 40% to 60% of Luffy's new bounty rule. The only problem I have with this range at the moment is that Yonko Blackbeard's own bounty is lower than these numbers at 2.2476 billion. However, I think it's very likely that Blackbeard will get a significant boost to match Luffy's soon, and that would justify Zoro's higher bounty as well. If on the other hand Blackbeard's bounty stays the same, which I think is unlikely, then we can at least expect Zoro's bounty to be above 1.5 billion, Luffy's own current bounty, and a bounty higher than any other known Yonko commander's bounty. This would make him a sort of fifth emperor, just like Luffy is now, and I think it would be a justified title when you think about his strength, Conqueror's Haki, and new King of Hell title. Besides, the hype of having two emperors on one crew just can't be denied. And yes, I think he could very possibly rise above Mihawk's own currently unknown bounty, just as I think Luffy will rise above Roger's bounty even before he reaches the title Roger reached, namely the title of Pirate King. Again, we're looking at threat level here, and the first mate of the Sun God is much more dangerous to the world government than a dude like Mihawk who just does his own thing on the side and has no interest in taking down the established order as far as we know. Let me know what you think. Like last time, if you get his future bounty right in the comments, I shall try to include that correct prediction in a future review or One Piece video. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Be a smashing Pirate King rather than a passing Orochi by making that YouTube thumb light up with fireworks to celebrate Wano's liberation. Join the Nakama by hitting that subscribe button and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future One Piece videos and updates. Now, if you want to see why, as I mentioned, I strongly believe Zoro has a mythical zone devil fruit already, even though yes, I know he can swim, then click the video on screen right now and I'll see you there.